All right, welcome back. Welcome to Tuned In with Jim Cummings. Today we have Manu Bennett. You know him from Spartacus. You know him as Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke and Arrow. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure, brother. My
Yeah.
pleasure. Here we are,
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's the proof. There's the bay in the background.
It's shiny right now. It was raining 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's how you know you're on the bay.
We're almost struck by lightning last night.
Oh, wow. It's
But,
never a dull moment.
yeah,
Well,
it's an exciting town.
that'll keep you on your toes. Wow. Electrifying. Well, it's great. Thank you very much, number
Yeah.
one, for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure.
He's, I mean, you look like a superhero or a supervillain. So it's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah, you look. I mean, I'm probably known for playing quite dramatic characters. Which from an acting perspective is really, it's a gift. It's a great, it's a gift to get these characters that,
Yeah.
that they sort of support the main character. Like I first acted as Crixus in the series Spartacus,
Mm-hmm.
and basically you're acting next to a great legend. That name itself. First made famous in the film with Kirk Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned the word Spartacus, and you have this idea of this fight for
Yes.
freedom.
Oh, yeah.
And so to play Crixus, who initially is his nemesis,
Mm-hmm.
you have to color all of this, I guess, character with this. I remember my producer walked up to me and he said, "Manu, what are you doing? The audience hates you. We're getting letters to kill you off."
Well,
And I said, "Perfect."
yeah.
I said, this is what set that seed was when I was young and,
Yeah.
and in high school. I mean, we all go through life, knowing or thinking we have enemies, and the enemy is built out of somebody who sees the world differently than the way we do. You meet somebody and you try to
Well, fair
align
enough.
yourself
Yeah.
to them in some kind of common,
Mm-hmm.
rationale, and if it doesn't work the right way, you're like, "Oh, I don't really get along with that person, do I?"
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so when I was at high school, there was this one guy who had like a mullet haircut, right?
No, I don't like him already.
Well, yeah,
No, just-
so he had a mullet haircut, and like I wore gel in my hair, and had like a flat top or something trendy, and
Yeah.
I had a beautiful mother, and my dad was a musician, and life was pretty easy for me. I mean, you see these, I see these American high school stories, and it's the jock, it's the good looking guy,
Oh,
the guy in the
sure.
middle, whatever,
The
and
Letterman jacket.
then along comes that guy. There's even one on The Simpsons. The guy comes in and he's like,
Oh, sure.
and there's this image of this person, this type of person, as being kind of like the bad guy, the bully, the whatever, like this. So,
Mhm.
so there was a guy that was just iconically that person, and I really didn't think much of him, And he would look at me and go, "What's with the haircut?" I did break dancing, and he'd call me like this.
Oh,
word.
really?
Yeah, he'd call me a rap sack. He'd go, "Rap sack," Anyway, it was just. I mean, that's not as dramatic as it got, but it got
Right.
dramatic. And in any case, I unfortunately ended up in a car accident one night. I went to my dad's
Oh, damn.
work, and my mum came along. We just actually been to a play,
Mm.
and Mum and I went to my dad's workplace, and we got into this vehicle, drove around the corner, and we got hit by a car, and my mother was killed. And I was thrown out the window,
God
and
bless.
they people talk about my scar that's on my face, and usually, like somebody today when I was here signing, walked up and said, "Oh, you do have a scar on your face," She thought
Oh.
she thought it was something that was added
Thought it
for
was
Spartacus,
makeup, yeah.
for Spartacus, and
Mm.
in any case, so I wake up in the hospital, like, a few days later. I was
Oh, my
thrown out of the
gosh.
vehicle, so I was
Really? Oh, my Lord.
I was in
Few
a
days?
I was in a coma for for 3
Oh,
4
man.
days, yeah. But when I woke up in the hospital, my worst enemy, this guy's Matt Sisley, standing at my bedside, right? You see the scars here. My eye was closed, and I'm thinking, like, what? Am I in hell?
Yeah.
You know,
Jeez.
Why is
Just exactly who
why
you
is this person-
expected.
anyway, he put his hand on my shoulder, and I don't remember exactly what we spoke about, but then I found out that when he was young, he lost his mother.
Oh wow.
Right, so
Oh, wow.
we suddenly, in this moment, it was like lightning struck. We were talking about Tampa, but it was like all of a sudden he and I were in the same predicament in life, and prior to that, not the same at all. And now I understood him, and he understood me, and like I was best man at his wedding.
No kidding.
way.
We stay in contact
That's
all the
amazing.
time, and but just to get to the story, so when I was
Well,
asked to play,
that wasn't the story, because that's not bad right there.
well, when I was asked to play Crixus, okay,
Yeah.
and I knew that I had to be the nemesis
Oh,
to
yeah.
this Spartacus character, I just played the relationship that I had at school with this
Oh,
guy,
that's
really.
great.
But I played it in the
Yeah.
way that I saw him.
Mm.
I played it in a way that he was just antagonistic and talking to me in a certain way that was, to me, riled me up and everything like that. So when my producer said to me, "Manu, they hate you," I just went, "It's perfect.
Good.
It's perfect, because I'm going to break their hearts.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna allow this story to keep on going, like build the angst of the audience, and then break their hearts."
oh, wow.
And it's one of the proudest. Yeah, it was one of
That's
the proudest.
wonderful.
It's the proudest moment in my acting. Was really just to have gone through that whole series and have known how much we, some of my own experience allowed the movement of the audience's emotions. And I get guys that come to me who have been fighting in Afghanistan, for instance. One guy came to me recently in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he said, like he was in tears. He said, "Man, I got to tell you, I came back from Afghanistan, and we had a troop that we called ourselves the Crixus unit. And when we went into battle, we would say, I can't believe it. I listen to this and I try to realize how in this real situation we're having some sort of effect on them like that." And he goes,
Wow.
when I'd go into battle, our team we'd pretend as though we were beating the shield. Like when I tapped the shield for
Right.
Spartacus
Right.
to begin the rebellion, that they were like, we used to do this with our guns. We'd tap our guns and say, "Shall we begin?"
Wow.
And I'm blown away, and I was
Wow.
going, "Dude, listen, you guys are the real deal, right?"
Yeah, no kidding.
I go on a set and they give me a sword and shield and I roar and whatever, but like I sit down and they bring me a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're not going to get that spoiled at all, on the real battlefield. You guys are the real deal, right? So I don't quite know how to relate. But then I have to think to myself as an artist, what have I done that has made this connection, right? So, I didn't explain the full story. My brother was killed in a car accident, right?
Wow.
And he died he was in a coma as well, but he died later, and he died in my hands. And as artists, we everybody brings a different part of themselves to the screen. I guess you call it, there's a camera, right? It's like, what do I do to put something into that little lens that then reaches people, that then creates something worthwhile,
Absolutely.
it can be anything from comedy to drama. It can be, there can be lots of things. It can be historical, it can be contemporary, whatever. But you have that moment in your career where you've got to do something in a job, and but as an artist, you have this palette of colors, and so when I dug deep in Spartacus, I was really, sharing myself, sharing my experiences with the bully, sharing the experience of holding my brother, when he passed, and there's the only thing that I can say that connects with these incredible military, soldiers that have this bravery and all that sort of stuff, is that in their quietest, most scared personal moments, maybe it's the hope of Crixus being able to survive in the arena. Maybe it's that scream of pain when you lose somebody. They because you hit that note right, and it's a real note. It's the note that they have when they're on the battlefield and somebody dies, right?
Yeah.
It's
Ooh,
that.
yeah.
It's like I mean, 300 years ago, they were writing about this sort of stuff on piano. You know, Rachmaninoff, and Chopin, and all these guys are doing it on piano, right? And you know, these days we try to bring that essential artistic expression to camera.
Mm.
You know, it sort of began with method acting. You know,
Mm-hmm.
being able to bring the real
That sounds about right.
the
Yeah.
real world into film.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
rather than just entertainment. It's getting, you know, it's slowly become more like that. The Batman, all of a sudden, Batman changed. You know, and Batman wasn't just this kind of like, hey, Robin, let's
Right.
go get the bad guy. You know,
Yeah.
kapow,
Yeah.
boom.
That's
get
for
him.
sure.
You know, it became, what's he thinking about?
Yeah. The Dark Knight.
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
especially the latest one, they really went for tones that were
Right.
about the
Yeah, I
silence,
agree.
about
Yeah.
the in betweens. You know, so all of that stuff. You know, I think I've been able to procure, you know, within a couple of really good characters like Crixus, Deathstroke.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, Deathstroke is, I mean, I'm familiar with him from the comic books.
Yeah.
And to bring something like that to life and make it real to people, it's kind of like, you know, I knew he was, you know, and you bring it to life. You know,
I'll
it's
tell you,
beautiful.
I'll tell you a couple of funny stories about
Yeah.
Slade Wilson Deathstroke, right? So Marv Wolfman was the artist
Mhm.
who did the very first iteration of what Deathstroke looks like
Yes.
on Teen Titans, on the Teen Titans comic book series, and the character was written by a guy called Marv Wolfman.
Yes.
So I did a convention in Ottawa, and I got to meet Marv Wolfman, or somebody pointed him out. They said, "Oh, you know that character you're playing," and this is when I'd just been cast.
Oh,
So
wow.
I just started to film Arrow,
Mm-hmm.
and they went, "That's the guy who drew you for the very first time." So I went over to him and I said, George Perez. Sorry, his
Mhm.
name was George Perez. And I walked over and I said, "Hi, my name's Manu Bennett. I'm playing Deathstroke on the new Arrow series." And he turned around and he went, "You're playing Deathstroke?
Uh-oh.
You don't look anything like him."
Oh, no.
Yeah, because look, if you took
Right.
my hair color and your hair color,
Yeah.
you'd start getting. He's meant to have gray. He's meant to have more gray, and
Oh, I
he's
see.
meant to be a bit older. And he said, "You're not old enough,
Uh-oh. You're not old enough.
and you're the wrong nationality."
Oh,
Like, he said,
Wait a minute.
dude. I was.
And you got this from a comic book, right?
This
So it's
is the
like-
first guy that visualized the characters, telling me
Oh
I don't
my
look
God.
anything like Deathstroke, right? So
Oh,
I was like,
Well,
I
there's
was
a
like,
blast of confidence for you.
oh, dude,
Oh, so I'm completely wrong. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
dude, at the end of the convention, I saw him leaving to get into a car, and I knew we
Oh,
were
yeah.
staying at the same hotel, so I went and jumped in the car, and I basically went like this, and I sat right next to him. I said, "What do you mean I don't look like anything like it?"
Oh, that's
and then he
funny.
then he went into sort of more like, listen, like he's meant to be an American soldier, you know, I'd never saw him as being. I think I'd had a bit of a suntan going on at that stage, so I was a bit darker than that. And he goes, "Yeah, I just don't really see you as the character." So anyway, I couldn't change his mind. He was set in his ways. So I
Yeah, just
I
'cause
did
he
I did a
authored it.
convention about I did another. It's great, these conventions. You get to meet everybody
Oh,
from
yeah, I
from
agree.
all different walks of life. And in any case, I met Marv Wolfman, who wrote the character a few months later,
Mm.
and somebody said, "Oh, that's the guy who wrote it." And I leapt over my table and I ran after him and I said, "Excuse me," because I was still scarred from what
Yeah.
from what George Perez had told me. And I said, "Marv Wolfman, you wrote the character, right?" And he went, "Yeah." I said, I'm the guy playing it on TV." And he went, "Oh, you're doing a great job."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh." He said, "Yeah." And I said, "George Perez said I don't look anything like the character." He says, "No, don't worry about it. You're doing a fantastic job. You know, all the way that I wrote him, like he's got so much gray matter. You know, it's like you can't tell whether he's, good or bad. You know, when he does things like, with a real code, right? Like he's just locked in the way that he believes, and but he's always trying to sort of find, redemption, beyond that. So you're playing it perfectly," he said to me. So
Oh, wow.
so I was
Perfect is good. That works.
I felt good about him and about hearing that from him. And then about 2 years later, I met both of them at New York Comic Con.
Oh, wow.
And it's when they just announced that Deathstroke was coming into the film, I think the Batman film. They were going to do a film with the guy who was playing Batman was from Good Will
Not
Hunting.
Chris, not
From Good Will Hunting.
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, yeah.
Ben Affleck. Oh, that one. Yes,
Ben Affleck
gotcha.
was meant to play Batman, and Joe Manganiello was going to play Deathstroke.
Mm.
And so they got paid a whole lot of money for the rights to make that film.
Oh,
right?
I see. Yeah.
And when I saw
Wow.
them, Marv said to me, "Oh man, thanks so much for doing everything, because now they're going to the film level and we're getting paid for the first time
Yeah.
for Deathstroke. For the first
Oh.
time we're getting money for Deathstroke.
Yeah.
That's
you know?
not bad.
So I looked at, so I saw George and I went, "There you go, brother."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, you did
Do
a
I
great-
look like him
yeah,
now?
yeah."
Yeah. How
I
about
mean-
now?
I mean-
How do you like me now?
I'm not trying to claim anything, like credit or anything like that, but it's just funny how
Yeah, that's got to feel good. Though, you know?
how he shut me down so hard. But
Vindication. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
it was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Well, good for
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
you've been kind of
fantastic.
touching on like vulnerability, talking about being vulnerable on camera and, bringing, those tragic stories of your past into your art. And how, like, what's your process? Like, how comfortable are you with that to show the world that, like you're literally showing like the most vulnerable parts of yourself for these characters, right?
I think that's an artist's job.
Yeah.
I think it's our responsibility. I mean, I'm not everybody takes it in that stride.
Right.
Like, not everybody should be expected to either, because
Right.
I would hope that for anybody, especially young people, that they wouldn't have to go through any pain or suffering.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But when you're bringing sort of consequence to characters that have been through that experience,
Mm.
like the struggles of a. I mean, people usually joke with me and they say, "Oh, what was it like being naked on? How could you do that stuff on Spartacus?"
Mm. Well, you've been naked before, I would think.
I just
Well,
figured.
it's just not.
Well, we're all born naked,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah,
There's
that's
a
right.
very, you can
Yeah.
have a whole debate
Yeah,
about.
that
I'm
does- that
Polynesian
does
as
make
well,
sense.
so
Yeah.
we used to walk around the Polynesian islands, under the
Oh,
sun,
wow.
the sound of waves, and
Nice.
no cacophony of traffic, and
Yeah.
the constraints of economics and all this sort of
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
So I have another part of me that thinks in a different way, but taking on that responsibility of being a slave, you have to realize that we didn't have a choice. There was moments of being a slave where you don't have anything,
Mm.
and that's accentuated when you're told to take off your clothes so we can show you to the Roman elite.
Right,
and
right,
you're
right.
standing there. You just so there's a lot of I mean there's so many layers in acting that you can choose some things based upon the moral opinion. Like recently, I can't really go into that discussion because of the fact that it's not being made yet. But I was asked to do a project,
Mhm.
and there's something that's really made me scared to do this project.
Mm.
And then I think to myself, like, well, as an artist, who am I representing? Only myself. How many times have I sort of done, what I thought was responsible for the character?
Yeah.
At what margin do I say, well, I'm not representing that group
Mm.
because it's not me,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
Because acting is acting, right?
It is, and everybody deserves representation.
Mhm.
It's one of those things that's becoming a sticking point in society today.
Definitely.
Like where are the borderlines in the boundaries of society in terms of what you represent, whether it be sexuality, race, whatever.
Absolutely.
Political
Mhm.
opinionation, whatever. It's a very interesting time for that, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
would
for
hope.
sure.
I would hope that in the future of my acting, which is immediate,
Mhm.
that there's a lot more challenging material
Mhm.
that brings to the forefront these conversations.
Right on.
And that's one of the things that I've been offered recently, where I'm going like, it's not me, but is it
Yeah,
worth
wow.
doing just to
Yeah.
really sort of represent
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
that group, which
Mhm.
which I support. I don't know, but I don't. At the same time, I'm not opposed or in any way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's I understand.
Yeah.
Notice how he can't
So,
quite tell us the.
Yeah,
There's the rub,
that's
isn't
the
it?
thing. But yeah. If I
Yeah,
pop up
it
into
is.
something unexpected, I've dropped
Okay.
the seed. I've dropped
My
the
mind is
seed.
reeling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I've
going
dropped
down the
seed.
list. Let's see. He's playing a milkman. No, that's not it. A shoe salesman. No.
And
Oh, well, that's amazing.
Just bouncing off you on the subject of vulnerability, Jim. What's one of the most vulnerable moments or characters that you've had in your career?
Well, that is actually an easy one. It was Princess and the Frog. I do animation. I do animation voices. I'm Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and Darkwing Duck, but I've done my fair share of movies, animated, obviously, except for Christopher Robin. But I've never had to die on camera. But in The Princess and the Frog, I played the Firefly Ray, and he was a little Cajun firefly from down the bayou down in Louisiana. Yeah, and it turns out the bad guy, uh, Keith David, he stepped on me. He was the voodoo doctor, and he whacked me, and I fell down to the ground, and he stepped on me to kill me because, and you heard it crunch, and and at that point, uh, the Prince Naveen and Tiana, they came over and found me, and I died in their arms, and it was really really hard to die,
Hmm.
and you only get to use your voice, and we only did one take, and I could see he was in love with the North Star, thinking that it was he was nearsighted. He couldn't see very well, and he thought it was his girlfriend Evangeline that he was waiting to meet his whole life. And so he goes, Evangeline, I'm coming to you, baby. I'm coming. And then he
I love it.
died, and
Yeah.
I thought, oh God, this is really hard.
I was like, Stella.
Yeah. And I looked up and everybody was crying. So I said, "Oh, okay, I got it."
In the studio.
Yeah, beautiful.
They were all
Yeah,
crying. And
yeah.
I thought, "Oh wow,
Yeah, nice,
I made
bro.
them cry." So it tears me up thinking about it.
Evangeline, I'm
But
coming
yeah,
to
it
you,
was,
baby. I love it. It's
You never
fantastic.
know. You never know.
Yeah.
So I was very proud of it.
Yeah.
Very proud to die.
Well, well, awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Well, look,
can you do you want to promote anything, or would you
Yeah.
rather stay away from that? Coming up next, where can people see you?
Yeah, not really. No. I think I've sort of put that in a bit of a nutshell. The way
Yeah.
that I said, like the present scenario. You know,
Yeah,
I'd love to be challenged. I'd love to be challenged, and I'd love
Mhm.
society to be challenged more in film and television. I remember
Yeah.
years ago a movie called Crash.
Mm.
Mhm.
Won
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
won an Academy Award for best script, and it was
Great
like
movie.
it was just
Wow.
incredibly enlightening.
Mhm.
That was
Good
back in the
stuff.
early 2000s.
Yeah.
2005.
And I just thought, wow, if we, films like that,
Yeah.
they've got a great, a great medicine to them.
Mhm.
I recently was in Greece, and I went to a place called Epidavros, which is the very first amphitheater that was built by the
Oh,
Cool.
the
sure.
Asclepios people. The
Mhm.
Asclepios. Asclepios is the two snakes.
Yep.
That's the symbol of the Asclepios.
Okay.
Oh,
So they're ancient medicine people, but it's the
and that
symbol
was going to
that
say
they
that's
use
the
for
symbol for
modern day medicine.
Modern day medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, the two snakes on the staff. So they built the very first amphitheater,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Romans copied them by building the Colosseum.
Yeah.
That was
Mhm.
and they built it in the round.
They had different plays there.
Well, exactly, and this is a very very interesting, challenging sort of topic.
Yeah.
In that these medicine people built the first amphitheater with perfect acoustics because they believed that the human communication, the human signal in itself, was a form of medicine,
Mm.
right? And
Oh yeah.
and so
I'll buy that.
Fascinating.
all of that pretext that we've spoken about in this interview, right? That's medicine.
Mm-hmm.
These guys that come from Afghanistan, anybody
Mhm.
who comes up and says, "Oh, we fell in love with your story with Navier or Slade Wilson," like, "Oh, he was so bad, but he's so good." We get it. It's
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
everyone's struggling with somebody in their family or someone they know who's going in and out of. We naturally love as
Mhm.
human beings, and then again,
Yeah.
we can get to hate, but there's kind of like all this kind of like gray matter. And movies like Crash were which basically for people watching that never saw it was about how you can disseminate Los Angeles into multiple racial groups,
Mhm.
and that all of it collides at some point, and everybody's really just sort of living for the same kind of rationale,
Right, we're all-
family for
Yeah.
living for an earning for whatever, for acceptance, whatever, living with authority as a police officer, like what was his name in Crash? I can't remember.
Oh, I can't remember.
But he
the character
but he
name,
played the police officer with authority, and then there was
Matt
a,
Dillon. Was it
Matt Dillon, yeah, and then you had
Mhm.
an immigrant family that were constantly trying to, like the Indian guy on South Park
Yeah.
or The Simpsons, who's kind of it's all comedy and stuff like this,
Apu.
but they're not a joke. Indian people aren't a joke, and
Right.
they shouldn't be a joke.
Mhm.
Not a
Nobody.
caricature.
No, Irish people.
Mhm.
I mean, it's funny to laugh at it, and I'm not.
Right,
I'm
right.
I'm really sort of not into all this PC. You can't
Yeah.
mention anything, but like
I think we hear where we're coming from.
like
Oh,
as,
yeah.
as a
No,
as
understood,
a, as
yeah.
a ball of human potential.
Yeah. And you
You
can't
know,
just be sitting around waiting to be offended,
Right.
because there's a little of that politically correct nowadays, and I don't have a head for it, actually. It's
Yeah.
like,
A lot of people are searching.
okay, yeah, they're looking for a way to be offended. Okay, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Now
Mhm.
I'm protesting. Now I'm this, I'm that. It's like, calm down. It's gonna be fine. It'll all come out in the wash.
Right.
It's
And especially humor.
Yeah.
Humor's a great equalizer.
Yeah.
yeah.
If you can
Should
if-
be.
if
Could
you-
be.
if you can
Yeah.
if that can be kept open, but
Yeah.
it's just I don't know, I had this epiphany in Greece
Mhm.
that what we do is because now the couch at home is that amphitheater, and your Dolby sound surround system is that perfect acoustics that they built into
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
amphitheater and a Peter Voss, and so whatever
Yeah.
we are doing, it's definitely tonic for people at home, whether it makes them laugh, whether it makes them cry, whether it makes them kind of live all these roller coaster rides of characters that the characters like it played. So yeah. I don't know. I just looking for new projects that have dialogue about where we are now, because
Awesome.
we're in a very interesting time.
Absolutely.
I agree.
All this AI, everything.
Oh,
is,
yeah.
yeah.
We've had discussions about this on this
Mm.
podcast.
Mhm.
It's fascinating.
yeah. Bring on the challenge, man.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
But
Curious to see where it all ends up.
hmm
yeah.
Well, I know you guys have had a long day, and I know your kids are
Oh
waiting
yeah,
for
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the last interview, by the way. If
Yeah.
whoever's watching this,
Yeah.
we just did 3-day convention in Tampa Bay, and these
Yeah.
guys, I
Yeah.
had my kids, and I was just about to walk out, and you guys came and grabbed me and said, "You want to do an interview?" And I was like, "Oh, wait up."
Oh, yeah.
and
Well, thanks for
and
getting it,
yeah, but
giving it the old try here. You beautiful
Yeah.
job. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's something meaningful,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That was very
absolutely. Yeah,
insightful.
very.
Thank you for being vulnerable
Yeah, I
with us
appreciate
and
your
everybody
insights.
watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still looking up at that northern star, going like, I'm
Yeah.
coming for you, baby.
Yeah,
I'm coming for you.
yeah,
It's
that's
like that's
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All
it's
right.
awesome. Yeah.
Cool beans.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you
yeah.
very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Godspeed. Break a
Yeah,
leg out
yeah,
there.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That does it.